Yes. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Global Yoga Festival. I am Vaidi Barge and I will be guiding you through the session today and tomorrow. So I welcome you all in the Global Yoga Festival, which is a series of ceremonies, a year-long festival started by Swasti Yoga Center and includes a lot of activities for everyone, such as yoga and wellness sessions, panel sessions, quizzes, live guiding sessions by speakers, kirtan, bhajan, and chanting. This is being held to commemorate 75 years of independence. So giving information more about your health and yoga, guiding people through life towards yoga and the knowledge of it. So today's session will be Omkar Chanting and Mental Health by the conductor will be Niamh Keoghan. So Niamh is from her 30s, from Ireland, currently living in Cork City in the south coast of Ireland. She grew up in the Netherlands and has traveled throughout the world in Europe, Asia, Australia, India, and parts of America and Canada. So she has 15 years of experience in yoga and is studying yoga in depth from last 5 years. She is a certified yoga teacher and meditation instructor, children's yoga teacher, and is currently undertaking yoga wellness instructor level 2 course from Swasti. She's also an English language teacher, a programmer, facilitator in an Irish Wheelchair Association.
Yeah, Vaidiji, you need to unmute yourself, please.
Okay, sorry. She's an English language teacher, a programmer, a program facilitator of the Irish Wheelchair Association, and a part-time psychology student. She's a published author of autobiography Digesting Wisdom, and she continues to write on travel, spirituality, well-being. Her goal is to create a hybrid form of holistic therapy for mental health issues by combining yoga therapy and art therapy. So Niamh, please unmute yourself and start with Omkar chanting and the prayer.
Good evening and good afternoon. Namaste, everyone. Okay, we can start with our chanting for today. So we sit with our back straight, spine erect. Close our eyes gently. And just observe your breathing. Relax the body. And we'll take one inhalation. Oh. Inhale. Oh. Inhale. Oh. We can join our hands, join our palms for the Patanjali prayer, keeping our eyes closed. Yogena chittasya parena vacha malam sharirasya chavaijakena yoga karutam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjalim ranatosmi. Gently rub our palms, placing our palms over our eyes. Slowly opening the eyes from darkness into light. Bring the warm palms down. Namaste. Okay, very nice to be here. Thank you very much. So today my talk will be about Omkar chanting and the impact on mental health. So the structure of the discussion will be in 3 parts. I will first talk about so what it is. I will talk about the history, the philosophy, the symbolism, and different definitions. Then in the second part, I will talk about mental health. So what are the more the pressing issues around mental health globally at the moment, and what are different disorders and how are they being dealt with. Then in the third section, I will bring both sides together to discuss more about chanting, then Omkar chanting in particular, how this benefits us, how to practice, and then how this impacts general health, mental health, physical health, and spiritual health. And then how can this be integrated into life? Still on the first slide, if we see our symbol here, very familiar to everybody, I'm guessing, and its symbol means primordial sound, so the first sound of the universe. When I started to put my research together for this talk, I wanted to know how well known this symbol was across the world, or even in my more immediate community as well, if it was understood. And I asked 10 people in my friend circle and in my family, and only one person said it was a mantra. Everybody else said it was either something with Eastern philosophy or something of a common tattoo. I'm thinking, or something maybe yoga. I've seen it on a yoga mat, something like this. So to me, that said a lot, that the symbol visually is known, but the meaning is definitely not as well known as physical yoga is being known at the moment. So physical asanas, physical pranayama practice, this is all very common, but the symbol that is so closely connected to yoga is not that well understood. So throughout this presentation, it will become also more clear why this symbol does in fact represent yoga, but it also represents something much bigger than yoga, because it predated yoga, because it is the first sound, first syllable of the universe. If that's a big statement for such a small word. Okay, so can I have next slide, please? Thank you. So here we'll start with the origins of So primordial sound, the first sound of the universe. And this can be also understood in Western science as the Big Bang. So there's similarities here in the theories. The Big Bang was a theory that originated in 1920s. So it's very recent, by a Belgian physicist who had his theory about how the universe came to be. So the Big Bang suggests one sound, very loud sound, it was a bang. Then if we look at we know that this, or the Vedic texts are telling us also that the first sign of the universe was also a sound. So this says that if a physicist in Western science is saying this, it is connected to the science of yoga. So it confirms and it proves that yoga is indeed a science. that is actually foundational to the universe and sciences that have since evolved in very recent history, because the first reference of Om is in the Vedic texts, and these were written between 1500 or 1200 BC and 800 BC. The Vedic texts are foundational ancient texts, Indian scriptures that hold a lot of the yogic traditions, the oral traditions that preceded the Vedic period, so the pre-Vedic period. They've been compiled in the Vedas, and in the third Veda, White Yajurveda, this one mentions Om, and it's used in a sacrificial way. So the start of every shloka, the start of every recitation was with this word Om. Then from the Vedas, within the same period, within these same texts, the Upanishads were created. And here on the slide, we have the 4 Upanishads that mention Om, and each one is referring to Om as Brahman. So Brahman is supreme consciousness or God, universal energy. It's something beyond the 3 states of consciousness that our minds are often only operating in, but it's something beyond that. And Om, the sound, universal sound, is Brahman. And also, like in Svestas Vatara Upanishad, it says Om is self-knowledge. So Om is self-knowledge, is Brahman. So as we, if we can access Brahman, if we can go back into silence, the stillness that preceded the sound Om, then we actually start to know ourselves, self-knowledge. We get glimpses of the reality of what reality really is. And this is where Om can bring us back to the source. Then the Prashanopanishad talks about the benefits of Om meditation, and Chandogya Upanishad also says that we ought to meditate on the symbol Om. So when we meditate on the symbol Om, meditation means to become one or absorbed in the object of meditation, so that we can become one with Brahman, with supreme consciousness. I will go a little bit deeper into this a little later. So after the Upanishads, the Yoga Sutras came during the classical period, and written by the father of yoga, Patanjali, and he also refers to the symbol and the sound Om as being his word. So his is Brahman, God, the word of God is Om, the source of all is Om. Good. Now, can we go to next? Thank you. So here, etymology and symbolism. We have different definitions of Om. It can be known as a sound, a syllable, because 2 letters, 3 letters come together, a word, a mantra, when we repeat it over and over again, it becomes a chant. Then when we're chanting a mantra, it is a meditation. When we meditate, this is also a prayer, a form of devotion, of worship, of surrender. So there are many different ways to define this very short word. It's also written in different ways. We have A-U-M, and then the A and U sound often come together to form the O. This is why often it's also written O-M, and it's called Om meditation or Omkar Japa. Japa is also chanting, and Patanjali calls it pranava. Pranava means to praise or to pray. So again, Om brings us back to the worship of consciousness when we use it in a chant or a meditation and use it as a mantra. Later, Latin actually termed omne, and even now in Germanic languages, European languages, omnipresent, immortal, infinite, omnipotent. These are all still used, and they all define the same meaning as Om, which means infinite, eternal, which also, again, can be translated to source and the start of everything. The symbol, if we see, it's called a ligature. So this means two letters have been taken and one letter is combined. The symbol A and U have been taken, and the Chandra Bindu is the crescent moon with dot. These have been taken from the Denagari script, which was an Indian script used in the 1st to the 4th century in India. And it has since evolved into Om as we know it today. And it consists of the 3 stages. If we go to next slide, thank you. Oh, back, yes. Okay, so here, in a relatively recent conference, Reel was presenting an article on brainwaves, Sanskrit, chanting, and sacred silence. And he dealt a lot with the chant Om. It was at a yoga conference, and he has dissected and given an interpretation of what each letter means. So the first syllable here, the A, means towards or pertaining to. So we are moving towards something. Then the symbol of U is psychological depth, inner psychic processes. So if we move through the sound, we say we are moving towards psychological depth. And then the final sound, the moon, the crescent moon and dot, then we come into mental process of thinking. Again, this is all within 3 dimensions of consciousness, and they have since evolved. Here, he explains it seems to be more clearly defined in this interpretation. So, A stimulates perception and concentration. So this is very much in the conscious mind. Then U stimulates emotions, feelings. So we're coming inwards. Again, we're moving inwards towards something, towards internal focus. And then the stimulates extreme focus, where we are moving more towards a meditation. So again, it is about moving through 3 stages, and each stage brings us inward more and more. And another way, we have the akar, ukar, makar. So akar is waking state, ukar, dream, and makar, deep sleeping state. So from waking, we move to between waking and sleeping, and then there's the sleep stage. When we look at the symbol here, so the first loop here on the bottom says waking state. Yes, very good, thank you. The waking state, then we move over to, yes, to the right. This is the dreaming stage. Then sleep state is this top loop. Thank you very much. And crescent moon is Maya. So Maya is translated as illusion. Illusion means these 3 stages of consciousness, they actually block us from going to any other stage of consciousness, stillness or silence that could be beyond what we normally experience as waking, dreaming, sleeping. So the Maya is an obstruction. And then the final transcendental stage is this is the dot that is Brahman. This is our source. That is ultimately the goal of chanting AUM Om. We want to move towards that transcendental stage that is beyond Maya, so that we move through the stages of 3. So the transcendental stage is also called Turiya, stillness, supreme consciousness, and something that is not expressed with sound. Now, this also means that the stillness is only experienced because we have the sound. So there's 4 stages to Om, even though there's 3 letters, but the 4th stage can only be reached because of the sound. So sound and silence, 2 sides of the same coin, and we need to have both to know when we have reached that stage. So we reach silence only because we've had sound. Okay, we go back, we go forth. So it's the duality of existence that, as well, yoga, the traditions of yoga, the philosophy of yoga is all about knowing the opposites, being okay with opposites, and each opposite must exist. Otherwise, we don't know the opposite. Otherwise, we don't know what we have here if we haven't had this here. So in this sense, if I push it a little bit further, we could say that this, so the sound, if we're moving through sound is also a part of silence. So we're moving towards Brahman, and then the sound is just as much a part of Brahman. If we're moving through 3 stages of consciousness within ourselves, we are also a part of Brahman, because we cannot get there if we don't come through here. I don't know, I hope that makes sense. Okay, I will continue. Let's see. So let's see. So we'll discuss now a little bit about mental health and what the issues are around this. So I've titled this Mind Matters. This can be understood. Mind matters a lot. Mind is important, but also there are matters of the mind. So there are some issues with the mind. We all have issues with the mind, I believe, because I'll talk first a little bit about the nature of the mind, and when the mind is not understood for what it usually does, what its tendencies are. So we're conditioned, as we all are very aware, we're conditioned to externally focus and to attach ourselves to everything outside of ourselves. So if we look at our self, it's our physical body. This is the external. This is where the focus is. We clean our body, we sleep so that our body feels good. We seem to even, especially in Western societies, the body is like something separate to us, which is not true, because we are all, the body is with us. It's all integrated. But the physical body is then the main point of focus, the thing we identify ourselves with. And then beyond the body, then it's all of material attachments in the form of relationships, achievements, jobs, things, experiences, everything that is outside of ourselves, we attach ourselves to, and we forget or don't even realize that there's a mind that also matters, that also needs some attention, and it's a natural conditioning that we can't ignore. It's not wrong, but it's vital to understand eventually that there is an inner world that needs tending to, so that we can grow beyond the conditioning that we've been given. So the the problem or issue with the material attachments is that attachment creates fear and chronic tension and consistent stress. But the problem with this is happening without us knowing, because we only know that this unease inside of ourselves becomes the norm. And when it's chronic, we don't pay attention, we don't know how, and our minds are then very vulnerable to becoming ill. And these chronic stresses and tensions that are built up that we don't know exist and we cannot deal with, they can lead to the psychosomatic disorders or eventually to psychiatric mental illnesses. So first, the psychosomatic disorders, these are so they're physical in nature, and they are triggered by mental stress, internal conflict, or a psychological condition. So they cannot be diagnosed, and often people suffering from these symptoms, they are constantly going to medical professionals, and they don't know what the problem is. The medical professionals also don't give diagnosis. So there's a sense of constantly searching for a way to get better, but not knowing the reason, not knowing how. Symptoms are fatigue, insomnia, aches, pains, high blood pressure, indigestion, headaches, rashes, ulcers, things like these. And as I was researching, I found myself thinking, it's quite sad because many of us feel this is normal to be tired, normal to have insomnia, normal to not digest food properly, normal to have headaches, but this is actually not normal. And these are symptoms of something that is going on that can lead to more illness in future. So the causes of psychosomatic disorders are a chaotic lifestyle, addictive behaviors, and difficulty recognizing and expressing and dealing with our emotional self, and also never taking time to actually look inside and question what is going on. And the treatments are often or slowly becoming complementary therapies that try to go to the root cause and treat the lifestyle conditions that have led to these physical symptoms. The psychiatric or mental illness, these words are often used interchangeably, so they have the same meaning in clinical terms. So these are clinically diagnosed and they can be treated with medication. It can be pinpointed within a set criteria, and it's a disturbance on a mental level that has a direct physical impact. And examples are depression, personality disorders, anxiety disorders, schizophrenia, eating disorders, and addictions. And the three most common, according to the World Health Organization, are depression. There's 300 million people globally who are suffering from depression. Bipolar disorder, 45 million globally suffer. Then schizophrenia, 20 million people. Schizophrenia and other forms of psychosis, 20 million people, which I found was very, very, very high. And it shows that this is only rising, and there's definitely a gap in how to treat these both psychosomatic disorders and the psychiatric disorders. The World Health Organization has identified this gap between the amount of patients in need of treatment and the treatment that is on offer. For example, in countries of middle income, with middle bracket income, 80% of people who are suffering from mental illness or psychosomatic disorders, they are untreated And the small percentage who are being treated, the quality is so low that it's not having the impact that it could or should have. And also here in Ireland, I heard 2 weeks ago, which is very recent, that the waiting lists for patients who need treatment for either psychosomatic disorders or mental illnesses, they have 6-month waiting lists. And after COVID lockdown, they've said for years, the medical services are going to be behind on treating people for mental illnesses, which is a big concern. And it's only escalated since COVID, because these figures are actually from 2 or 3 years ago. And in 2013, the World Health Organization, they created the Mental Health Action Plan, which was a 7-year plan aimed to promote mental health, to offer preventative measures, and to support research and to provide more services. But I'm guessing that after COVID, this will need to be readjusted, changed, pushed forward, and I'm guessing the figures will also have increased. So then I'll go to the next slide, thank you. And yoga's role in all of this can be quite positive. There's different research being done. Perhaps in the last 20, 25 years, the research has been growing at an increasing rate, which is great to see, and yoga is becoming more of a therapeutic model to help people suffering from either psychosomatic disorders or mental illnesses. There's the limitation of the research, however, is when treating clinically diagnosed patients who suffer from psychiatric disorders, it's very difficult because yoga or the Western science, they need something objective to treat the patient. They need to know that there's a set formula and that it's only X, Y, Z, and this will help, and that the whole person is not involved. There's no holistic approach. And because of this, Western medicine is only slowly starting to explore these different options, but is still very, very hesitant because it's objective evidence is not available. It's all subjective. Yoga takes the whole person into account, and every single individual will be treated differently because their circumstances, their past, their present, their character, everything is different. And that's why it's hard to put this within the parameters of treatment in clinical settings. What yoga does help us with, even those who don't suffer from psychosomatic disorder or mental illness, it focuses on mental hygiene. So bringing yoga back off of the physical side of, or just off of the mat, bringing it back to yoga is about the mind. Everything is orchestrated within yoga practice to attend to mental hygiene. So mental hygiene will help awareness of what's happening within our minds, and it helps to alleviate stress. And so it makes us aware of what the untamed mind will do and how it can create chaos, negativity, tension, unease, pain, suffering that we don't really want, how it creates this naturally if we don't take conscious steps to take back the power from that part of the mind and empower ourselves and use, the mind is a beautiful tool, use it to our benefit so that we can overcome these obstacles. So mental hygiene can create that detachment from those parts of our minds that are easily attached to everything that is tangible and material. And it has many different positive side effects, like our coping mechanisms. They increase, stress becomes less, we can work more effectively, we can contribute to our society, and we can achieve our goals. And a very important one, I think, is that we can actually understand ourselves so much that we accept that we are human beings within a physical body with limitations. And others also have limitations, and all of our limitations are different. And then that's a whole way of accepting ourselves, accepting others, and being more at peace with where we are in our journey to the goal we have set ourselves, whether it's a spiritual goal or an immediate goal in our environment, so that we can be more present and just more at peace with who we are, what we can do, and yes, how life is moving. Okay, let's see. So can we go to the next slide? Yes, we can go to next slide again. Yeah, next slide. Thank you. Okay, so here we have the practice of Omkar chanting and chanting in general. So chanting is for most of us, we will know that the practice is to rhythmically repeat a mantra or word, a phrase, or an affirmation, something that makes us feel positive. We repeat this rhythmically over and over, then it is a chant. And to keep this a little bit grounded in our day-to-day, I like the analogy of music and its impact on the body. So if we turn on the music, we instantly will feel something. We can feel happy, we can feel sad, we have a memory, we feel anxious maybe if it's a certain type of music. There's an instant physical reaction to the sound that we hear, and this creates a mental and emotional shift, even if we're not aware. So in this way, the chant can work the same, because the sounds, they create the vibrations, and they directly impact these three parts of ourselves. The main difference is with the chanting. We are chanting ourselves. It's not music that is being given to us, but we are taking the conscious decision to imprint in our minds something very beautiful, something very uplifting, something that's sacred, something that can have a healing impact on our minds, which gives us more confidence to actually feel like, yes, I'm using this as a self-remedying practice, and it gives us back that sense of power. And yes, we can do this. We can implement these practices on our own accord, using our own discipline. So how do we practice Omkar chanting? So we fine-tune our inner ear to the vibration and the sound that's happening within. So the mind is anchored to the sound, and in this way it has the meditative qualities. And any dialogue or monologue, negativity that's going on in our minds is negated, or yes, overridden, overtaken by a more positive input, which will create a chemical reaction, a chemical change within our bodies. Our bodies become more relaxed. When the body is more relaxed, then as well the emotions are less tight, and the mind feels calmer. And I like the idea about the words holding the energy. Even in our day-to-day life, we know if somebody uses one word, maybe something of profanity, how bad we feel, physically we feel like, and it's this external trigger. This word holds so much of energy. And in the same way, this syllable of it holds the energy of the universe. It holds the energy of the source. And if we actually meditate on that idea, the power that is in that word, and if we are consciously imprinting this in our mind, even if it's 10 times a day, like that power has that word has so much power, and so much power. Yes, power to change our mind and to change our feeling. And it's very, very, very beautiful, very powerful. So here we practice this by having the observing mind that is aware of the changes in the body. And Patanjali in Yoga Sutra 128, he is talking about we need to have focus on the meaning of the word, the feeling of the word. Just like we know all words, yes, they hold an energy. And if we keep the awareness of the power even of Om when we're meditating on it, then that amplifies the benefits, it amplifies the practice. And also in Sutra 129, he's talking about having this as having the devotion. So we must have a faith and devotion to what it is we are praying. And when it's Omkar, it is the supreme consciousness. We must be devoted. We must believe in this practice. And to believe, we also must practice so that we can experience it and get that experience of, yes, this works. This instills the belief that this is a sacred path and practice, so that we can move beyond the three sufferings, or the sufferings in the mind, and beyond the three stages of consciousness. So in this way, the mantra is a prayer in that sense, very much because we are become united with the sound as we move back from the sound to silence. Because when we're chanting, we need to have that silence after the three stages. So the silence lets the vibrations sit in the body. The silence gives us an observing mind so that we can feel the resonance that came from the sound. Again, so the sound and silence are one. And yes, so the next one we can move to the benefits. The benefits of Omkar chanting is the next slide. Thank you. So here's some research that has been carried out. We have Gangada says that the biology of depression is hyperactivity of limbic structures, and yoga combined with Om chanting deactivates this process. So this is like, this would be evidence enough to use Om chanting and yoga for treating clinically diagnosed disorders. Kachan Joshi, he carried out research on college students between 20 and 35 years. For 10 minutes a day, they were chanting Omkar for 30 days, and they awakened more dormant capabilities of the brain. Then let's see, the Pranav Pandya in 2002, he studied the effect of chanting on anxiety and stress levels on males between 20 and 30 years. For 30 days, they practice 30 minutes per day, and they experience decrease of anxiety and stress. Then another study in 1999 for 108 days, chanting daily relieves mental disorders and offered mental peace. And there's many studies done on the Sanskrit effect, which is the recitation and memorization of Sanskrit and chanting these verses regularly. It can increase the gray matter in the prefrontal cortex, which leads to logical thinking, memory, and improves language. And overall, these are, yes, empowering statements, especially Omkar. Om is an empowering statement that empowers the mind, gives confidence, and gives us back a sense of control when we're dealing with life, with challenges, and trying to navigate ourselves through sometimes turbulent waters, and wanting to keep a positive and happy mind. Then we go to the physical benefits on the next slide. Here we have research done where Omkar chanting is beneficial for cardiovascular and respiratory health. So we can slow down our breathing from 16 breaths per minute to 6 breaths per minute. It also increases cardiac function, and these also have more impact on rebalancing blood pressure, boosting immunity, increases radiance and skin complexion. And you notice I first said the medical benefits and then the physical benefits, because I was using the idea, yes, yoga does start with the mind. Everything starts with the mind. We need to know the mental benefits. Then the physical benefits will come when we focus on the benefits of the mind. And then eventually spiritual benefits come in different ways also. So there's relaxation, reduces stress, the ability to release that which we cannot control. So our attitude can change. We become more detached because we have that sense of connection to something that is greater beyond the material, something we don't need to attach ourselves to, but can actually simply be with, and we don't need the material, the obsessions with materials to become the main source of our identity or the main source of our happiness. So we have connection between mind, body, spirit. There's like a union that comes together as we move through the 3 stages. And when we're practicing devotion, we inevitably will feel positive, and we will feel humbled, and we will feel empowered, and naturally then a healing power comes, and there's a sense of union with that consciousness beyond. Then those were the spiritual benefits, and to integrate Omkar chanting into life, I suppose individually, personally, a daily practice would be, for anybody starting out, doing even 10 chants in the morning and 10 in the evening. That can be sufficient already. That will create just even the tiniest taster of what it could be when building on that. And it's also it can be done verbally or internally, so mentally. The benefits are better when done mentally, but as a beginner, doing verbally can be just as effective, and then gradually going to mental chanting, and then increasing the amounts of chants. And when I look at how Omkar is recognized or not in Western societies, I do feel there's a lack there of awareness of what this is, especially even like the symbol wasn't known or not so well understood, or even hearing the word Om, oh, but I still don't know what that is. It's a shame when it has so much power and it can be so transformative. And at the same time, yoga is becoming more and more popular, but it is then only the asanas and the pranayamas, as we well know, and as we discuss a lot in our classes. So the chanting would, if awareness around this was raised, more research was done, then it would shift even how people understand yoga, that yoga is not just about the body, yoga starts with the mind. You know, the first sutra talks about yoga is control over the mind. So that is the starting point of yoga. And Om can show us that and lead us through different stages of the mind so that we can expand our own minds beyond the states of consciousness that we're always engaged in. So the research is still ongoing, and hopefully it will increase. Hopefully Omkar will be recognized for its healing potential and for its benefits. And yes, I'll slowly wrap up. I slowly finish my talk on Omkar Chanting. Thank you very much. Thank you for your listening. If there's any questions, please feel free.
Thank you so much, Niamh. If you guys have any questions, please unmute yourselves and ask away.
Even if anybody wants to express or give any feedback, comments, you're all welcome.
That was a really wonderful session. Okay.
So, namaste. It was a great session. Learned a lot. Lots of things I did not know completely. In fact, let me start with, I was say laughing on myself. The word omni. We use omnipresent so many times, right, in our daily lives. And I never realized that omni could lead, to that deeper meaning, which will connect with Om, being one. So thank you so much. But yeah, there are quite a few things. And, I think this is going to, make us ponder and, probably explore more. So very thought-provoking and enriching.
Thank you. Thank you.
Muy bien. Can I say muy bien?
Oh, you can. Yes.
Thanks.
Yes, there is one question from Anupama ma'am. How long can one chant Om in one day?
For beginner, it will be 10 times in one sitting, 10 times, or for maybe 5 minutes, 10 rounds. Yes, in the morning and the evening. I'd say as beginner, I wouldn't suggest going straight for 5 minutes because it can feel too much. I would say, yeah, 10 rounds in the morning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to ask Vikas sir to facilitate.
Yes. Maybe even the screen has gone into the Turiya state. That it doesn't want to move and come out of the Maya. So mesmerizing, a wonderful session. We have never experienced the idea of Turiya, but definitely through your session, we could have a sense of that, what it could be.
What it could be, yeah.
As especially Indians are having a lot of stigma about our own culture, about our own heritage. Many a times it happens in the global platform that many yoga teachers try to adapt themselves conveniently according to the culture or the country they are teaching yoga. Because they feel teaching yoga is okay, but if you chant Om, it is religious. Because the community where they are teaching, they have this perception. But many a times, yoga teachers, we ourselves do not take the efforts to make people understand that yoga, chanting Om, or these symbols are beyond religion. And I think when all of us have listened to what you have said, from the historical references to the classical texts of yoga, I think we won't be ashamed or shy. Sometimes not ashamed, we are shy of it. So I hope all of us will take the inspiration and will share this video of Niamh and make all those other colleagues of ours or Indians who are everywhere in the world aware that we shouldn't be shy of these things. We can openly practice and in fact educate and create awareness. Now that yoga is global, it's very important that the aspects or the branches of yoga which make it or give it the strength should also reach different aspects of the world. So that was wonderful. And second important thing, you made the justice with the topic that you have chosen. Yoga chanting for mental health.
Mental health.
With the pandemic, COVID crisis, people are into financial troubles. People are in dire need of these things. As you pointed out, mental health services are so much scarce. People have a stigma about mental health. I can discuss, I have diabetes, but I cannot say I have depression. So somewhere talking about these aspects and how simple practices like chanting can also give you that mental calmness, increase secretion of endorphins, rather than getting dependent on tranquilizers and sedatives for your sleep. So a very wonderful session. And with this, we will move ahead to Vaidi, and later on we will conclude with Niamh's prayer.
Yes. So tomorrow's session will be conducted by Dr. Shrikant Wagh, which will be on the efficacy of yoga in arthritis. It is a very interesting session. Please do join everyone. And thank you for joining today. It was very good to see you, everyone participating. And let us end the session with Shanti Mantra. Please, Niamh, please continue.
Thank you. Okay, we can close our eyes and join our palms. Om Sahanao Navatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamatsu Ma Vavishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.